Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my American Cancer Society readathon. Um, I'm reading The Eyes and the Impossible, and we finished yesterday with a chapter of great humiliation. In order for Johannes to be able to walk around the park without getting noticed, he had to put on a very silly-looking doggy sweater costume, and he is not very happy about it. Those friends who care for him very much and want him back out there, they think it's hilarious. Can't say I blame them, but hopefully he doesn't have to wear it for too long. That would stink. So here we go, chapter 18. None of us knew what would happen. Would I actually blend into the world of humans and kept dogs? The sweater covered most of my dappled coloring, disguising me, but I was still the size and shape of the dog they were looking for. Bertrand decided to stick with the original plan, with him flying overhead and keeping track of me and any approaching problems. If he saw vehicles or humans pursuing me in any way, he'd swoop down and let me know. Ready? He asked. I am, I said. He flew up and caught a thermal and floated above me like a guardian cloud. Get going, he yelled down to me. I began. I took the earth under me and sent it into the past. I did it again and again, taking the future and tossing it to the backwards. And soon my eyes were glassy with cold speed, and I was flying. I broke the speed of foxes and rabbits and kept going. I entered the speed of sound and broke it like a cheap toy. When I was flying across the picnic fields, I could see the windmill and could smell the salty ocean. I became light itself. When I slowed down, I realized I had crossed the highway and was already in the ocean-side sand and could feel the surf on my toes. If I hadn't stopped then, I think I would have flown across the surface of the sea. I made a note to try that another time, and I smiled. I laughed. I could still run. I looked up and saw Bertrand up, hovering up near the sun. So far, so good, he said. You are wondering about the sweater. You are wondering if the sweater altered my running ability or my ability to reach the speed of light by throwing the future into the past and being the mechanism that turns the world. I'm here to tell you that it did not affect this ability, and I have to give credit to whatever human loons had designed and made this garment. For years, and every free animal I knew, I'm sorry, for years I and every free animal I knew made glorious fun of these sweaters and looked with pity upon the dogs who wore them. But now that I had a run in one, I knew that it did not inhibit my movement. It warmed my body, which I appreciated, especially when it got close to the sea, where the wind often cut through me with sharp, chilled fingers. In all, I was able to run just as well as before and was warmer than ever. Not bad. But it still looked ludicrous, and the collar was an insult to all that was dignified and right. I ran more. I ran along the water till the beach ended in the great jagged at the great jagged boulder, and I ran the other way till the beach ended with the high white cliffs. And to see how fast I could move up slanted sand, I darted up the cliffs and found myself almost bumping into Bertrand. He was perched on the cliff, staring out over the sea. Coda, he says. I followed his stare and found a tiny silhouette of a seagull soaring high, crossing the sun, in even higher ellipses. Who is it? I asked. Louis, he said. Louis had contracted some kind of illness, something that gulls got, and soon he would be unable to fly. So he was taking this final flight before he lost his ability altogether. Look how beautiful, Bertrand sighed. I said nothing. I did not and do not approve of this thing they do. They consider this act, coda, they call it, full of honor and heroism and sacrifice. But I consider it self-indulgent and silly and unnecessary and grim. When a gull is getting very old, or if they have sustained an injury or illness that will prevent them from flying again, that gull decides on a time and place for their final flight, the coda, their last time on Earth. Even if they've been wounded grievously and can barely flap their wings, they will manage one last flight. They will go out to the sea and they will fly high as high as they can manage, and then circle if they can, and then, when they reach their apex, then they feel the heat of the sun, the warming touch of God, they let go. They let go and spiral down and give themselves up to gravity and the water. And when they hit the surface of the sea, that is that. That is the end of them. This is what Lewis was about to do. He was flying higher, his ellipses ever more melancholy, and Bertrand thought this was just wonderful. It's wonderful, he said, shaking his head. That's the way I'll do it when I do it. I turned away from Lewis and his coda, not wanting to see the last of it. And I ran down the cliff and down the beach. Bertrand is my brother, and we know each other and agree on most things, but this coda madness I cannot abide. Wonderful? No. Heroic? Not a chance. There is no reason the gulls cannot go on living even after losing their ability to fly. They can walk. They walk very quickly and well, and they can find food and can talk and see and enjoy just about everything about this singular, precious life. But they see their loss of flight as a loss of face, a shameful thing that embarrasses not only themselves but their species. They call it dishonor, and for millions of years they have done this terrible coda. And I cannot look and will not look. I don't approve and won't watch. I'm going to pause here for a second because, like Han Solo, I have a bad feeling about this. I've been talking about this final flight thing before. And Bertrand is the type of friend that, if the time came, he would, do this type of thing. I have a feeling we may encounter that. So brace yourselves. Animal stories have this tendency of sucker punching you with a sad thing. So be warned now. I don't know what will happen. This is a blind read, but my spidey sense is tingling. All right, back to it. When I ran back into the park, I took another way, hoping to see the roller skaters in the Cape. But as I got closer, I saw more cars and humans than I had ever seen before in the park. I was running just below the speed of sound, so it was hard for me to count, but I would say there was at least 12.5 million people there, all around the new building. There was some kind of band, and there were many smells of many foods, and there were millions of children, maybe 9 million, and umbrellas and thousands of colors, and I thought I had to stop or at least slow down so I could see what it was all about. There was no safe place where I could sit and watch. There was no trustable woods with a view of the building's entrance. I could take my usual spot at the back door where I'd seen the giant impossible picture enter, but that was quite removed from all of this and all of these people and excitement. I circled the building at the speed of a jet and thought about this, about how to get a bit closer. So many of the humans present had their dogs with them, and all of them on leashes, and so many wearing those silly sweaters. Oh, I thought, oh, oh. For a moment, I had forgotten that I too was wearing a sweater. I laughed at myself about this. Ha ha, hoo. With so many kept dogs and so many of them silly sweatered, I could blend in, even though I had no leash and no keeper. I slowed to the speed of the fastest car and got a better look at the plaza. I looked for the control the animals people and found none. I looked for wary-looking parks people and found none. The event was festive and crowded, and no one, I was sure, was there looking for me. I slowed to the speed of a slower car and swung into the into the crowd. Museums open, a voice said above me. It was Bertrand. He was doing that thing where he flies right above me, such that I can't see him. No matter how I crane my neck, he would float left or right so I couldn't see him. He thought that this was the height of all worldly hilarity. Stop that, I said. Stop what? He asked, still invisible to me. I didn't know that he could be so playful and wry after seeing Lewis's coda, but again, this particular gull madness eluded me, and I have chosen not to try to understand it. Go away, I said. Fine, he said and floated near my shoulder. Looks like they're opening the building. Now all the people can go in there and see those crazy rectangles you like. I couldn't go in, I knew. He knew too. But there's a couple of rectangles visible from the outside, he said. There's a giant window where they have a few big ones, bigger than a bush. hanging from in the front there. You'll see. I went to see and I saw. There were two, and like they looked nothing alike. They didn't look like the same species could have done them both. The one on the left was like the ones I'd seen before, in that there were things I recognized. There was a jagged boulder, though it seemed to be upside down, balanced precariously. There were 100 or so people, and most were chartreuse. There were roads, and there was a giant chicken being ridden by a man with the head of a chicken. There were 100 other things in the picture, and I couldn't see them all. But because there were so many slow-moving people near the painting, I was not surprised by this. It was a tremendous picture, but it was annoying too to have it so difficult to take it all in. The one on the right had no things in it, nothing I could place in the world. It was just colors and shapes. There were stripes and ovals, and I think there might have been a triangle. And then half of the painting seemed to have been dipped in midnight, or it was a liquid darkness that took me in, and I became a part of it, living inside it. I found it very confusing and mesmerizing too, and I was staring at it. It was messing with my mind, to be honest. When I felt the flapping of wings near me, it was Bertrand. He landed near me, and for the sake of the humans nearby, he pretended to eat some popcorn on the grass. Move on, he said out of the corner of his mouth. You're being noticed. I broke the spell of the picture and looked around. Several humans were looking at me. They noticed me hypnotized by the picture. Check out the dog who likes art, one said. Another was taking photos. Pretend you're waiting for your owner, Bertrand muttered out of the side of his beak. I looked toward the front door and whined a bit, like a kept and needy dog would. A woman in a uniform, who I assumed was attached to the museum, started walking toward me. Time to move, Bertrand said, and flew ahead. I trotted away from the museum, but found myself among more humans than I had ever seen. I weaved between legs, always watching every which way, tingling with the fear that one of them would have a leash and would leash me with it. Finally, I got clear of the throng and was in the open grass and in front of the white glass cathedral of flowers. There he is, a different voice said. I turned to find the control of animals person approaching me from behind with 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 a leash, another leash. There was another control the animals person in front of me. They were converging on me, one with a piece of paper bearing the image of a dog. It was me. I ran before I could think. I ran like the birth of the universe. I left the open park and entered the darkness of the woods and wove through the trees as a swallow would, as a hummingbird would, and I did not slow until I was sure there could be no one near, no one who could have followed. And finally, I arrived at my hollow where Bertrand was waiting. I think we have a problem. He said, Yes, we do. I said, The sweater helps a little, he said, but those rectangles still get you in such a trance that you're putting yourself in some serious danger. And I'm saying this as your friend. The way you were looking at those rectangles was concerning. You zoned out to the point where you could have been easily leashed again, or caught by the control the animals people. Or, I know, I said. I didn't know what else to say. I was embarrassed, and I was concerned too. But listen, Bertrand said, we're going to get you into that building. I don't mean while humans are there. I mean sometime when it is empty and you can take it all in without attracting attention and endangering yourself. I didn't know if this was a good idea or a horrible one, but I was intrigued. I'm sorry to put you guys through all this. I said, It's nothing, Bertrand said. What else are we supposed to do? Eat pieces of bread and French fries all day? We need some kind of higher purpose. And maybe that higher purpose is keeping you from harm and getting you into that weird building with the cemented rectangles. Bertrand is such a good friend. Love that. Glad he got away from the animal control people. That would have been scary. But I'm really interested in those pictures. I like the way he describes it. And I really like how he describes how he runs faster than the birth of the universe. That has to be pretty fast. Well, I will see you next time. Roma, Riva, and Krishna, Auntie Heather loves you very much, and I love the rest of you too. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.